Our first guest tonight is Dr. J.J. Peterson. J.J. is one of those guys who's done and seen it all. He was a pastor, and then he worked in public relations for an international aid organization, building homes and schools around the developing world. He's lived in the slums of border cities in Africa, South America, and Mexico. After that, he went into academia, where he was the dean of students at a university. He then toured the United States doing improv comedy, ending up in Hollywood, where he both was a writer and an actor. He even created and sold his own reality TV show, but I promised JJ we wouldn't be talking about that today. The thread of all of his journey is communication, and in particular, narrative marketing and storytelling, of which he is the master. He is, after all, Dr. J.J. Peterson, professor of marketing at Vanderbilt University, and the director of teaching and facilitation at Storybrand. He's also the co-host of the chart-topping podcast, Building a Storybrand with Donald Miller. It's great to have you with us tonight, JJ.
Oh my goodness, you just made me sound so good. Thank you for that introduction. I'm so excited to be with you guys.
Well, we're so excited to have you. At Impact Central, we love Storybrand because of the power of story. And you have a PhD in narrative marketing. Maybe you can tell us, why are stories so powerful, and in particular in a business setting?
Yeah. So story really is a sense-making device. Story kind of helps us make sense of the world around us, make sense of lessons that we're supposed to be learning, even make sense of facts and figures. Facts and figures and science, even outside of a story, doesn't often make sense to people. And when you can take anything that you want to convey in truth, or you want to do in marketing, or you want to get people to buy in and can place it in the context of story, people will pay attention because a story will help them make sense of all of it. And we have so many, these days we have so much information being thrown at us at all times, and our brain is looking to make sense of it. It's trying to figure out what information we need to pay attention to and what we can get rid of, because our brain actually is designed to keep us alive, right? Our brain is designed to help us survive and thrive. And one of the ways it does that is by focusing on things that matter. Our brain's kind of constantly looking for what's important, what matters. If you walk into let's say a theater, back when we could walk into theaters, nobody knows how many chairs are in the auditorium, but we all know where the exits are. Because our brain instantly focuses on the thing that is going to help us survive in a moment of crisis, right? Well, when it comes to business and marketing and emails and websites and commercials and billboards, we have so much information being thrown at us all the time, right? We just are constantly bombarded with up to maybe 5,000 commercial messages a day. And because our brain is designed to focus on things that only contribute to our survival and thriving, we're actually getting rid of and not paying attention to the details that don't do that. So when marketing and businesses tell stories that don't make sense, or are not effective, or are not inviting, our brain is literally designed to tune that out, to get rid of that information and not pay attention. But when you can tell a good story that invites people in, and specifically as a business invites a customer into a story, people not only will be able to see how your product and service contributes to their survival and thriving, but are going to be more engaged and more likely to buy. And from the academia side, I don't want to get too nerdy, but what that is called it's called narrative transportation. So when we put ourselves into a story, we experience what's called narrative transportation. So if you ever say the words, "I got lost in a book," or you're watching a movie and something scary happens and you jump, that's narrative transportation. You've put yourself in the story. And the research shows that when we experience narrative transportation, we are much more likely to have our minds changed by the story and our actions changed by the story. The more we can see ourselves and put ourselves in the story. Well, that happens in books and in movies, but it also can happen in narrative marketing, in a website, in Instagram, Instagram, in an email. When your customer can see themselves in the story that your company is trying to tell, we experience narrative transportation. We make sense of it all. We get put in the story, and we are more likely to have our minds changed and our actions changed, which means people will buy. So bottom line is, the better stories you're telling, the more likely people are going to see themselves in the story of your business, and they're going to buy more.
Right. So I can hear the wheels turning out in the audience going, okay, yeah. I'm a good storyteller. But
yeah.
Do you find people, A, are good storytellers, and B, maybe they don't know some of the key things maybe that they're missing out on being good storytellers?
Yes. I think I used to have a roommate who we used to put on story timeout because he was such a bad storyteller, right? Like, we would literally say, Greg, do you want to go on timeout? Is this story worth it? Are you going to be able to tell a good story? So not everybody is a good storyteller. And I think there are some people who are natural storytellers, obviously natural entertainers. But the reality is there are actually rules to story that go all the way back to Aristotle and Plato. There's a formula to tell stories. And when you tell stories in the correct formula, in the correct way, again, you help people make sense of what you're talking about, invite people in, and they experience narrative transportation. But if you tell the story wrong, if you tell the story out of order, if you break some of the narrative rules, whether that's in a movie or in your marketing, you actually people will tune you out.
Right. So, that is fantastic, because I know at Storybrand, you guys have actually figured out that magic formula.
Yes.
How do you tell a great story? And I was hoping maybe you can walk us through those steps that you guys have identified.
Yes. And I wouldn't say we figured it out. I would say that this is based on history, right? This is, like I said, you go all the way back to Aristotle and Plato. What we figured out is how to boil it down in a very simple formula that then people can apply to their business to tell good stories. But this really is based on how screenwriters write movies, and you will notice these steps as I explain them. You will begin to see this in every movie and every story you've ever seen. And the rules, there are a number of different rules to story, but in its most basic form, there are 7 pieces to every good story that need to be included. And the first thing is, when you're watching a movie or reading a book, there is a main character, a hero, and you need to know very early on in that story what that character wants. Like Jason Bourne wants to understand who he is. Katniss wants to win the Hunger Games. There's one thing, and it can't be 20 things, because if Jason Bourne wants to run a marathon, find a girlfriend, open a bakery, and adopt a cat, that's not a good movie. There's one thing the character wants. Then a problem gets in the way. So the character experiences a problem that they cannot solve. The entire movie is about them trying to solve this problem. It's getting in the way of what they want. But we know as an audience that the character cannot solve that problem on their own. So the hero meets a guide, somebody who has been there, done that, who is wise, who can have empathy for what they're going through, and then helps them through the process. And they help them through the process by giving them a plan. And that plan usually has multiple steps to it that will help the hero win the day. And then there's a moment that the hero is called to action. So there is, like, in 24 hours, a bomb is going to go off, or, this is going to, the kidnapper is going to take the person, they'll disappear forever. If you don't do it in 5 hours, there's a moment the hero has to take action. Right. And then we know as an audience what success looks like, what a happy ending looks like, and what tragedy can happen if they don't win the day. And that's really what every story you've ever seen is like that. The first thing is a character who wants something. 2, a problem gets in their way. 3, they meet a guide who helps overcome that problem. 4, the guide gives them a plan to overcome the problem. 5, there's a moment where they're called to action. And 6, we know what failure or tragic results could happen. And 7, we know what success or happy ending looks like. That is every movie, every book you've ever read has that formula in it.
And, we're here tonight celebrating 6 amazing impact startups. And I know the audience is entrepreneurs that are either with ideas or maybe even started their own businesses. Just want to ask you, what is the one thing that people often get wrong, or that what is the one thing that they focus on the most when kind of coming up with their own story?
Yeah. So the Storybrand framework really argues that you are not the hero of your story. Your customer is. And so you need to identify in your marketing how to articulate those elements of the story. So you need to understand, what is it that your character wants? What is it that your customer wants? And it has to be one thing. You can't articulate 50 different things. You have to clearly say, this is what we offer. Basically, this is what you want. Then you have to identify what is the problem that you solve for your customer. The only reason they're coming to you is because you solve a problem. So you have to talk about their problem over and over again. Are you struggling with this? Are you worried about this? Is this stopping you from moving forward? Then the big shift is you have to position yourself as the guide to your customer's hero. That's the biggest mistake most people make, is they try to be the hero of the story. You are the guide. So you have empathy for their problems and you have authority. You've helped other people solve that problem. Then as the guide, you give them a plan. So how do you guys work together, or how do they purchase your product? There has to be a very strong call to action. So buy now. And then you need to paint a picture for what happens if they don't buy your service: failure, tragedy, or what life can look like if they do. And all of that story is not about you. When I say tragedy, it's not that the tragedy is not that they didn't buy the product. The tragedy is that they're going to continue experiencing their problems. You know, if you have a headache and you don't take aspirin, the tragedy is you're going to keep having a headache and it may get worse. But the success is, if you take the aspirin, you actually are going to be able to enjoy your kids more, you're going to enjoy life more, and you'll probably sleep more, right? So you have to paint those pictures. And a lot of times what happens is businesses position themselves as the hero, try to sound great, and the reality is their customer is the hero. And when you position your customer as the hero, you're not telling your company story, you're telling your customer's story, and you're inviting them into a beautiful story that they get to live.
Awesome. So key thing, don't be the hero, be the guide.
Ever. Be the guide always.
And I know tonight's theme is about action and contemplation. You've given us a ton to think about. And I know that you also have written a great book called Marketing Made Simple. And that's an opportunity for action, right?
Yes. None of this matters. You can tell all the great stories you want, but if you don't put it into action, your customer's not going to buy, right? So if you don't figure out and look at your website and say, are we positioning our customers the hero? Have we identified the problem they experience? And that's not just for a website. That's for when you're walking in and pitching something to an investor. Have you identified the problem you solve for the customer? And have you identified the problem you are solving for the investor? Have you given them a clear plan to win the day? You are not there to say, we have a great company and we're amazing. You're there to say, you're the hero. We're going to help you win. So what does that look like for them, and what does tragedy and what does success look like? Tragedy is you missed out on a great opportunity. You didn't buy Apple stock when it was 99 cents, right? That's a huge tragedy, right? But success is, imagine where you could go as part owner of this, right? So that's really the idea behind it all is you want to actually implement this. Take the language that you understand and create out of the story and put it on a website, put it in emails. That's what's going to make the difference.
Right. And I know, so we've talked about the great book is Building a Storybrand. You have Marketing Made. If someone wants to learn more about Storybrand, you also offer things online, right?
Yes. So we have a platform called Business Made Simple University, and it's at bmsu.com or businessmadesimple.com. And you can go there, and we have courses on all of this stuff. So a course that teaches you how story works, how to craft a clear message for your business by making your customer the hero. Then a Marketing Made Simple course that actually then shows you how to take that language and put it on websites, emails, one-liner, sales pitches, a communications course, a mission statement course, all these courses. But if you're interested in kind of figuring out what is the story we should be telling and where should that go in our marketing, Business Made Simple University, bmsu.com is the where you can go.
Awesome. JJ, I know we'll have you involved in our next cohort, so great to be working with Building a Storybrand. And just wanted to thank you again. You've given people a lot to think about tonight, and I'm sure they'll be taking that and building their own stories, building better stories. So thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.